Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today, I am joined by Allison and Becca, and we're again talking about Frankenstein. I almost said Throne of Glass, to be honest.
Just on the top of your mind.
Yeah, I was like, what are we talking about? I don't know.
Because we spent an hour talking about it.
That classic novel, Throne of Glass.
Oh God, I'm sure people are going to be fighting for that to be like a modern day classic, the way people do for Hunger Games. Don't you think?
Are people fighting for Hunger Games to be a modern classic?
Yes, strongly.
Crazy.
I mean,
strongly.
It did have,
I hated it. I'll go on record saying that.
It had a chokehold on society.
All right. It's time to discuss Frankenstein. We are on chapter 5, and I did not realize that there was volumes of this book for some reason. I completely forgot that until this reading where we hit volume 2 and the chapters restarted. I was like, oh.
Oh, I forgot that too.
I also forgot that, and I've read this book. This is probably my fourth reread of this book, and I had no idea there were chapters in it. So that tells you how much I comprehend.
Honestly, that's a mood. When I'm actually like reading, and I'm not like podcast reading, I always forget that like chapters exist.
Yeah. And again, I stand by the fact that this is a fantastic audiobook. And in the audiobooks, you just like don't really see the progression of the book happening. You're just listening to the story. So like
So chapter 5, Henry gives Victor a letter. In this letter, Elizabeth's like, I need proof of life, which is my favorite thing to do. Between Daniel and I, we demand proof of life whenever one arrives home and the other is not, and it's a photo of the cat.
that's funny.
So a very iconic behavior for me. This made me laugh.
The newspaper with today's date on it.
Yeah, just a little photograph.
It felt like a sibling move.
Mm-hmm.
Sibling slash
yeah, it did feel very
sibling slash fiance in this book.
Slash cousin. Slash best friend.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hate it. Sorry, Elizabeth. It's not her fault she was human trafficked.
I have to say that this is going to make me sound like the worst podcast guest, but the more that we get into this book, the more I'm like, wow, I did not remember a lot of this book.
Yeah. I feel like the more you get into it, even on rereads, you're like, wow, I knew some crazy shit went down. But the more I reread it, everyone's kind of unhinged, right? Yeah. Every character is just a different level of chaotic, whether it's chaotic evil or chaotic neutral. I feel like everyone's just kind of...
The whole book is chaotic neutral.
Is it neutral or is it evil? Victor's chaotic evil.
I mean like nonchalant. Like,
yes, that's it. Everyone is nonchalantly absurd all the time. Yes.
It's like, oh, not a big deal. I just created this monster. I'm going to just take a nap.
Yep. And then 2 years later, I'm going to pretend like it never happened because I don't know where he went.
The fact that
Victor's
it's
like,
years.
Victor's like, you talk to that grandpa, and he's like, oh yeah, when I was a nom, I had 17 war crimes against me. And you're like, what? You know?
Yeah, that's Victor. I also, when we got to the end of this section of reading, he talked kind of about how old he was, but he didn't give an actual date. And I'm like, I tried to do the math. I think he's like 23. I think he's really young, which makes a lot of sense because when I was 23, I was maybe not doing the same things, but I was behaving pretty similarly, you know?
Just avoidance behaviors.
Avoidance, absurdity, recklessness, endangerment, self-sabotage. I feel like that kind of sums up 23 for me and Victor.
Trying to think about what I did when I was 23, and I'm like, pretty much the same thing I'm doing now, except now I'm making it work better.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was 23 sounds like an ABBA song in Mamma Mia. You know?
Yeah, it does.
Did I tell you that Caitlin is like 0.01% of the top ABBA listeners on Spotify?
Yes, and that's why I
every year.
So deeply.
It's impressive.
Yeah, but it always like screws up my Spotify Wrapped because we share an account and we are not on the duo, so it treats us as a singular person, and so it's like your most popular is like my death metal playlist, and then Caitlin's ABBA and country, and like the I feel like Spotify just is kind of like, are you okay? Be honest.
Everything going good?
Yeah.
I love ABBA. We're a big ABBA household.
Us too. Okay, this letter, proof of life.
Yep. And then she's like, hey, also Ernest's health is drastically improved. So that's cool.
Remind me who Ernest is. Is that their
Brother.
dad?
The brother. One of the brothers.
Brother, okay.
Yeah. And then they're like, they randomly get really into this servant, Justine, which makes me laugh because I'm like, why the fuck do I care? Like,
human trafficking.
Human trafficking.
just some light
Exactly.
human trafficking dialed in,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, poor Justine. And I say poor Justine because that's how they refer to her the entire book. It's not just, oh, Justine. No, poor is put in front of Justine's name almost every single time.
Mhm.
And I feel like poor Justine was Elizabeth 2.0 and was human trafficked into the Frankenstein family.
Yeah.
To do what? To be pretty and take care of them?
This reread has really brought to the surface how much human trafficking is
And
in this book.
And then I wonder if Justine was brought in the same way Elizabeth was brought in to marry one of the younger sons. Because Elizabeth was brought in to marry Victor.
Mhm.
Was Justine brought in to marry William or somebody?
Probably.
I don't know.
Good point.
And then I like how they talk about, I mean, we can go into Justine's kind of like background
Mhm.
before she gets taken. But I love that Elizabeth is like, Justine is our servant, but a servant in Geneva is not the same thing as being a servant in France or England. She's
Mhm.
considered our family, but yes, she does have duties as a servant. I'm like, ew, Elizabeth, you should know better. Of all people.
No, Elizabeth doesn't know any better. She was abducted.
It's not Elizabeth's fault that she was human trafficked. I feel like that's the second time I've said that, which is kind of a red flag.
Well, it's like, it's funny because it's like
she
either way.
it.
Yeah, either way, Elizabeth was either abducted from a random poor family and stolen away, or her father essentially sold her because he's like, I want a new wife and she wants a new family and I don't want this reminiscent of my past.
Yes. Yeah.
So either way, not great. Like,
hate it. Poor Justine. I will say, Justine is my second favorite character in this entire book.
Who is your favorite?
I love Justine. The monster.
Oh.
We haven't gotten to him yet, but I promise you, when the monster starts talking, that's when this book gets fucking wild. It
okay,
gets
I'm glad
so good.
we get more with the
I don't
monster.
know.
Oh.
I don't know who my favorite character is.
I'm not gonna spoil it, but we do get the monster's POV.
Ooh.
And it is so much better than
we
you've
haven't
ever
gotten there yet. You're right.
Yeah, do you remember it?
Yeah, it's like
It is
it's like
so
the best
good.
part of the book.
It's the part of this book that I like rant and rave about to everybody. I'm like,
Okay.
it is incredible when you get to the monster's POV.
I bet
and
there's
I
fan
think we're
fiction.
pretty close. Oh, I'm
For-
sure there's fan fiction. I will not be finding out firsthand though.
Honestly, I keep having this running joke that at some point I'm gonna like read fan fiction on the podcast and dissect it in the same manner, and I just haven't done that yet, but it's coming. I can feel it.
Do you read a lot of fanfic?
I have before, but like casually, mostly because I read so much that my parents were like, "We cannot afford to keep buying you books."
Yeah,
So
you have
things
to go to the alt route.
Yeah, things got a little chaotic, and it's funny because like there was this author that wrote the entire Divergent series from Four's point of view before.
I've never
Four
read
came out.
Divergent.
Okay.
And I
Oh,
didn't
I
understand the
hate it.
movies, if I'm being honest.
Well, okay,
That's
let's
fair.
be honest. Anything that was dystopian in 2010, we read it. But
I didn't like it.
I
didn't
liked
like
it.
that is a disappointing series. Come at me, people, but disappointing is. with a
I think I know
capital
how
D.
it ends, and I can see how that's fair.
Yeah, I was pissed. But I couldn't get enough of it, so I was like obsessed with this fan fiction, and then I like became friends with the author for like
Aw.
I don't understand how it happened, but like we chatted, and
Talking to people on chat rooms.
I don't. Well, it's funny because
Early 2010s.
I don't
So
even
you're catfished.
understand like. Or not like it was weird. So she also had the same last name as Daniel, which is
Oh.
weird. And now she like went to UF.
Oh.
And, like, every so often she'll like pop up.
Is
as
it
a recommended-
Daniel?
I know. She'll like pop up as a recommended friend on Facebook. I'm like, oh hey, like
That's cool.
yeah, like I think we have each other on Instagram still, but like we don't talk at all, you know. But it just like makes me laugh because I'm like, oh, what weirdos we were. But okay,
Yeah. I think that's fine. I feel like all fanfic, though, you're diving into the realm of weirdos, and you just have to embrace it and appreciate it for what it is. And I say that only having ever read one fanfic.
Is this Manacled?
It was Manacled.
I haven't read that.
I have to read Manacled still.
No,
Rachel,
I'm
you
scared.
will love it. Rachel, you're gonna love it. Allison, you're gonna hate it. Allison's gonna hate Manacled. Rachel, I think you're gonna love it. I've read the crazy part about Manacled is how long it is, and I've read it.
Why are you
times.
so confident that I'll hate it?
Because of the themes that happen, especially to the main characters of Harry Potter, and it heavily deviates from.
Can you send me the link? Actually,
I have it somewhere.
Yes, I'll find it. In fact, I have it saved on my laptop because she's publishing it into a book, but obviously has to change names and everything because of copyrights. And so she's deleting it from AO3. So I downloaded it.
Please
I've got it.
Send me.
Yes, I will send it. But yeah, Allison, I think it's just going to deviate too far from the characters and the story that you're so familiar with, because it's an alternate ending and like. It's dark. It's a.
I love dark romance. So.
Oh, Rachel, you're gonna love it. Isn't
this
probably the darkest
Draco
thing I've ever read.
Fanfic?
Yes.
See, I can handle that. That doesn't bother me.
But it's like Handmaid's Tale. It's post-war. It's loss of all reproductive rights. It's forced breeding. It's like there are really dark parts to it. A lot of the characters die really bad deaths.
Yikes.
Yes, that is.
Yeah,
but
I love it. I love it.
All I've heard is that I have to do it once. I have to read it and to be prepared to be scarred.
It was scarring, but I loved it. I'm glad I did it. When I first started it, I think I got, I don't know, not even 10% of the way in, and I put it down because I was like, what the fuck? Like, who reads this?
Can I put that on my Goodreads?
It's not on Goodreads.
I think it is. I think it's on mine. It's on mine.
Is it?
Yeah. It's on my want to read because
oh, interesting.
I do want to read it, but I am scared.
It's intense and it's very long, very very long.
I think that's the only reason I pushed it out initially because I didn't have the time. I mean, I had the time. There were other books I needed.
Yes, it is on.
Yeah, yes. Sinlin Yu. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it being long isn't really the problem. The problem is that it sucks you in, and then you can't do anything else until you finish it, and it's long. So it like kind of does take over your life. Your dishes will stack up. Your laundry won't get cleaned, and it's like 1,400 pages.
That was a concern of mine that I wasn't emotionally prepared for it.
You got to be emotionally prepared for it, yeah. How did we get to the fanfic talk off of poor Justine?
I don't know, but I feel like you telling me that I'm not going to like it just makes me want to read it more. Because of just like
no, I think you should read it. I think you should read it. I think Rachel is going to breeze through it, eat it up, love every minute of it. Allison, I think it's going to tear apart some of your childhood. And that's what I worry about. Because you are, I mean, I love Harry Potter. Rachel, I assume you love Harry Potter. But Allison, the way you love Harry Potter, I'm worried for you.
Becca, you and I.
But I do think you and
I were proving the Harry Potter Trivial Pursuit incorrect.
Yeah. No, like I love it. I feel like I know everything about it. But I was definitely open to an alternate ending.
Yeah, TikTok audio where it's like, send it to me, Rachel, please.
Show it to me, Rachel.
Yeah. That's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
Because like I know I've been told multiple times I need to read it, and I'm like, all right.
I think you would love it.
I think
send the
I'll
link.
find it.
Rachel would really like How Does It Feel?
It's on
Rachel
my list.
would love How Does It Feel.
You know, I pushed that on her. I actually hated the second one, but I think you might like
the second one was bad, and I probably won't continue the series because of how bad the second one was.
Right now,
Iron Flame is a close follow-up to that too.
Fair. I'm rating the Mindfucked series because they're like 2 hours, and
that's nice.
Yeah, 2 hours of a Kindle book, and I needed to catch up with my reading goal, but they're also
that's just
very
one
good.
Sitting.
Yeah.
I beat my reading goal already. I only had it set to 12. I think I'm at like 18 books for the year so far.
Incredible.
Mine's at 40.
Yeah, okay.
So
mine's 20, and I think I might be behind. Let me see.
Yeah.
I just was like, if I can read one book a month, I'll be really happy. And then you look at June, and I was reading 6 books. So,
let me see.
Whatever.
Yeah, my goal is 20. Oh, no, I'm still ahead. But that's because I sprinkled in the summer I turned pretty books for...
Yeah,
I hate myself. I don't know why I did that. So I'm at 12 for the year. So I'm at least averaging over
Nice.
the book a month.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can send it to my Kindle.
Manacled, I think you can.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody has figured it out.
Yeah.
I read it on my phone because it's on AO3.
That was also part of the reason I didn't want to read it right away.
Yeah.
I think I was going to have to read
Yeah.
it on my iPad, which is not a big deal. But
Yeah.
I feel like I talked to another friend that told me she put it on her Kindle, and I might just text her and see how.
okay,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Yeah. I'll find it. Okay, but poor Justine. Do we need to talk about Justine's background?
I did not write any notes about it because I thought she didn't matter.
Unfortunately, she didn't matter
Yeah.
in the worst way.
Yeah, in a way, she really didn't matter at all.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way, she was a sacrificial lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So the lion
foreshadowing
meets
there.
the lamb.
Yep.
Poor Justine.
Poor
Okay,
Justine.
wait. So here Elizabeth is talking about how happy she is and just giving Victor like the lay of the land and everything he's missed with his dad and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then Elizabeth is like, I'm super happy. But since you left us, there's only been one change that's taken place in the household. Do you remember on what occasions did Justine Moritz entered our family? Cool name.
Yeah, pretty solid.
She goes, I'll relate her history, therefore in a few words. Do you want me to read this, or do you want me to summarize?
If you could just summarize it, probably.
Okay, let me read it really quick then.
Okay.
Okay, Justine's mom was a widow who... Oh, I remember exactly now. Justine's mom was a widow. She had 4 kids. All 3 of her favorite kids died, and she hated Justine and treated Justine really terribly. And so Elizabeth found Justine and was like, hey, your mom hates you and treats you terribly, and all of your other siblings have gotten sick and died. You can come and live with us if you would like. So Justine leaves. Her mom goes fully biblical and thinks that God is punishing her for mistreating Justine by killing all of her favorite children. And so then her mom is like, Justine, you and I need to go see a priest. And then the priest is like, you're correct. He is, in fact, killing all of your children because you've mistreated Justine. And so her mom's like, Justine, come back and live with me. I'll treat you so much better. It'll be so much better. Justine lives with her mom, and it does not get better. And so I think Justine just kind of bounces back and forth between the Frankensteins and her abusive mom.
Poor Justine is right, man.
Poor
Literally.
Justine is her name at this point.
She deserves better.
Yeah, so she's either a servant for the Frankensteins or she's getting abused by her psychologically ill.
Okay, but this is an important backstory to understand where her confidence level is at.
Yes, yeah. I feel like it makes sense why Justine was a victim of human trafficking. And then
false accusation.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just thought she was gossiping, to be honest. So I literally wrote a note here. I'm like, is Elizabeth ends her letter with hot goss?
Oh no, the 2 pages of this letter is about Justine's background.
Yeah. I just thought she was gossiping. I did not realize it was going to actually matter.
No, she talks about how Justine's mom was a Roman Catholic and needed to confess all of her sins, and the Catholic priest was like, absolutely, your God is spiting you, and it's just bad.
I feel like a good chunk of this book in the first read through is this important?
Yeah, it's tough to clock what's
because
important.
Because a lot of the things that I thought were really important, now that we're going back through it, I'm like, that was not important at all. Or vice versa.
Yeah. I will say, though, after that, she gives him a little update. She gave Victor, like, a quick update on William, his little brother, and then she does go on and does start gossiping. And she even says, I think you'll really like this gossip I'm about to give you. Mm-hmm. And then she, like, goes into it. And this is me speculating. This is me making it up because it goes nowhere. Mm-hmm. But Elizabeth is telling Victor about the people in their town, and she's talking about an ugly woman, Manon, who married a rich banker last autumn. And then she goes, Victor, your favorite schoolfellow, Louis Manoir, has suffered misfortunes since the departure of Clerval from Geneva. But he's already recovered his spirits and is reported to be marrying a very lively, pretty French woman. And I'm like, oh my God, did Henry leave Louis to go live with Victor? Is there a love triangle happening?
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Oh no, could be. Could be. I'm not against it. I think I just want it to be so bad.
Fair. In a moment, when we get to more about Justine, I have a headcanon that her and Elizabeth were dating. So
that's
my little something in your notes where I was like, ooh, interesting take.
That's my vibe.
I love that we're going through this again because I feel like I missed so much on the first read through. This is what I'm saying. I feel like all the things I thought were important weren't important, and I wasn't paying attention to some of these little nuggets that make it a lot more interesting.
Yeah. I agree. I think the first time I read it, I was just kind of confused because it's a classic and there were names and words and punctuation and just like syntax I didn't fully understand. But now being able to go through and break it down by paragraph and by like what's actually being said and what's happening, I'm like, oh, you guys were talking shit. Like this is messy. Y'all are horny and shit talkers. And
and what's hard is this is a classic, but every adaptation that's done of it does not follow the book almost at all. So it's completely
not at
new.
all.
I mean, it's a classic, but it's like you're experiencing it for the first time.
Exactly. That's such a good way to put it. But after that letter, doesn't he write her back? And I think he starts feeling better. He goes and sees his professors. I think he has some guilt there for a bit.
He immediately writes back. He then also says he finds the topic of natural philosophy torture. And then he's like, fuck it, I'm going home, which makes me laugh.
Mine does have a line in there when he's like, fuck it, I'm going home. He does say, my return had only been delayed so long from an unwillingness to leave Clairvaux. Like, that's killer. That's killer. He's in love.
But also, this is displaying, once again, avoidance behavior.
Yeah, 100%.
That's like his middle 100%. Name. Victor Avoidance Frankenstein.
Yeah, he made this horrible monster. It's been 2 years. He's like, I guess I'll go home now. Nothing's really come of it, and I'm depressed, so I'll go.
Can you imagine creating like an actual atrocity and crime against nature and be like, man, that hasn't come to bite me for at least 2 years. Maybe I should go home.
Maybe I should just be done with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he like kind of ends that chapter, at least in my version, that chapter ends on like a good note. Like him and Henry go on some hikes together, and he talks about how his feelings for Henry have grown and he's such an excellent friend, and now he's feeling so much better. And then I think he gets another letter from his dad in the next chapter where it's at for me.
Yep. So then we're on to chapter 6.
Nice. Mine's 7. I don't know where our chapters divulged, but I am on 7.
I know we mentioned it, but I don't remember where.
I don't either. We'll have to go back and listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
That's
so they get home from their little walk, and a letter from his dad arrives. And I kind of forgot that like servants exist that like lay out your mail and stuff, and that like Henry, the fancy rich boy that he is, has like a house servant in college. Could you imagine having a servant in your dorm?
No, but have you ever read The Secret History? Because I feel like, have you read that, Rachel? You may actually like it. I, in fact, hated the book. You can leave that in because I will fight about that. People love it. I hated it. In fact, it was such a bad book. I DNF'd it with, I think, 22 pages left. I couldn't even finish the 22 pages. It was like a death march. It was terrible.
Damn.
But they're elitist rich kids. But Rachel, you might actually like it.
You're like, this is the worst book I've ever read. Rachel, you should read it.
It's not the worst book I ever read. I will say that. The first half I was very into, and then there's a second half. The second half I was done. Like it just was not worth it. But the first half is about a bunch of college kids who are really like hoity-toity going to a private college in Vermont, and the same vibes as Henry and Clairvaux. Or no, same person. Henry and Victor. Because I'm like, yeah, rich college students, bunch of dudes, just being loaded, I feel like.
Yeah. When I'm not going to lie to you, second I get money, I'm getting a maid. I'm over it.
Personal chef.
Yeah.
Personal chef's where I'm going, for sure.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I never want to have to cook again.
No.
Or think about my nutrition. I just kind of want it.
I settle.
I don't even care if it's like every...
The only non-homeowner in this podcast.
Like for me, it's like a chef, if they even came over like 3 times a week and like prepped the meals, like I don't need it made for me when I'm hungry. I just want food in the fridge.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same.
I'm not cooking.
Okay, but the second letter from his dad. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to keep this on schedule because I will have to go.
You're fine. Okay.
Second letter. Let me find
Mhm.
mine.
We find out his little brother William has been murdered, who we were just talking about is like doing better and like feeling great in the last letter.
Why are we laughing?
So,
Dead, gone, child murdered.
Rachel,
didn't they call William the cherub?
Rachel,
Yeah.
your notes
Yeah.
killed me, pun intended.
I didn't read your notes because I was like, I'll have time to go back, and then we changed the time.
I wrote it exactly as, oh no, comma, his little brother William is dead, comma, murdered, exclamation mark.
Murdered. I just read it like in Schmidt's voice, like murdered.
Yeah.
Murdered. That's funny. It's not, but it is.
You know, why did we all laugh
then
when that came up, by the way?
Because it is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because it's just like out of the blue. Like
Mhm.
Elizabeth sent a letter saying everything's great. We have a new slave. Dad sends a letter. Your brother's dead. Who's the slave gonna marry now? I feel like that's where we're at. And then Elizabeth is like all up in arms and is like, I killed him. I killed my little brother. And we're like, Elizabeth? Really?
Yeah. Did you? Yeah, basically what happened is they were on a family walk, which love a family walk, I guess. And they like lost the 2-year-old for a second, and when they finally find him, he had been strangled.
That's not funny.
I just like what?
Yeah, like what?
How do you first of all, like I get it. Kids are runners, but like how do you lose a 2-year-old that badly? You know what I mean?
I think what's more
Like,
out of
okay.
pocket about this whole
Leash
thing is that she blames herself because he's wearing a mini portrait.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wrote in the notes, like, because she acted like it was a mugging gone wrong. She was like,
Yeah.
I let him wear this locket. In mine, it's called a locket, but it's the same thing. It's just like a little picture of
Yeah.
her mom, or his mom, her aunt. And she was like, I gave it to him. Surely that's what the murderer wanted. I killed him. And I'm like, it's not your fault. There was a mugging that went
Yeah.
awry. This is
Oh,
New York
no.
City every day.
Shocking, a female character that blames herself in this story.
Yeah.
It's like they have no worth in this story.
Yeah, literally.
It is kind of crazy that this is written by a woman, and the women have absolutely no.
Yeah.
I cannot wait until we can deep dive into Mary Shelley, because I think it's going to be a whole other, it may be a bonus episode, because it's just like there's so much to get into.
I'm telling you right now, whenever I die and this becomes an afterlife podcast, I am going to find Mary Shelley and I'm gonna be like, girl, what the fuck?
Girl, what was going
Who
on?
hurt you?
Yeah, tell me. Literally.
I stand by the fact, what little I've read about Mary Shelley's life, I think this is her retelling of her life. And she calls it the modern Prometheus, and I think she thinks of herself as the modern Prometheus. I think Mary Shelley thinks she's being punished the way Justine's mom thought she was being punished. Because there are a lot of similarities from this book to Mary Shelley's life. And we'll get into that.
I can't wait to get into that, to be
It's going to be
honest.
so fun.
So his dad's like, hey, you gotta come home and comfort your sister.
Slash
which
fiance
makes me
slash
laugh.
cousin.
Yep.
Every time.
I think it's really important to remember where we are and what's happening.
I think
That's
so,
fair.
too.
That's fair.
I agree. Slash slave.
Yep.
Slash victim, dude.
Literally. So Henry's like trying to be comforting by being like, oh, he's in a better place, like
He
blah
says
blah blah.
bad stuff.
And
to
I'm like,
him.
buddy, I don't know if that's comforting, actually. Like, I can't imagine that like someone in my life passed and then being like, oh well, at least they're like not on Earth here anymore. I'm like,
Yeah,
you know?
He was like, he can no longer be our subject of pity. We must reserve the pity for his miserable survivors.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't comfort me. Like,
No.
it just makes me feel like a miserable survivor.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still upset, actually. I found out 10 minutes ago.
Not to rationalize this discussion at all, but I do wonder that historically was death a little bit more like, hey, it happens. Just so much more frequent.
I think so.
And almost expected. I mean, this is a very vicious death. It's not like he was taken to the sea to feel better, you know? It wasn't like he was ill.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree with that. I think they're a lot more desensitized to it because it happens left, right, and center. But murder, on the other hand, I feel like would be like viewed as so much worse because there's so much natural death that a murderer is so unwarranted.
And this particular murder is disgusting. I mean, he's a child.
This particular murderer is wild.
He's a child that has like a very personal death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sad.
So he immediately goes home for obvious reasons. And he's like, gets really emotional when he gets home. He's like, I've missed it so much. And I'm like, I don't know if I've ever been that way. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like a crazy, like, I also live where I predominantly grew up, but I don't feel like when I went away and I came back, I was like, oh, the trees, I miss them. You know, like, I'm like, do people actually feel that way?
That's me. I'm like that. Okay. I'm very sentimental about places. I think about like my grandparents' houses that they lived in when I was really young, and then they sold at some point in their lives because that's what people do. And I think about I'll never be able to go back to those houses or to those places. You know, I get Victor's sentimentality here.
I'm sentimental.
I will say this. I do miss my grandparents' lake house.
Mike and I talk about
just because it was a nice
all
house
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they still had it.
Yeah. That's how I feel about a lot of houses. But
like
he goes back and he's like immediately sad, right? Oh wait, no, he gets locked out. He gets locked out of Geneva.
Yeah. The town locks itself, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, like every night they lock the gate, and so he's just out there by himself at night waiting to get in to see his family, and that's when he sees the monster, right? I've highlighted it.
Yeah, he decided in the middle of the night while it's been raining to go out into a park where his brother was murdered, see what he could see, which I'm like, what a wild concept. Like, literally someone just died there, you know?
Frankenstein. I wish we knew how long it took him to get from, where was he, Ingolstadt to Geneva?
At least a couple days. Like, you can't get there that quick.
Definitely a couple days, because he talks about spending 2 days at Louisiana or something like that. That's definitely not how that's pronounced.
I would love to hear the psychoanalysis of Victor.
Oh, me too.
Psycho killer.
But yeah, he sees the monster. He goes, I perceived in the gloom, because while he was out there looking for, I don't know, detective clues in the rain, he said, I perceived in the gloom a figure which stole from behind a clump of trees near me. I stood fixed, gazing intently. I could not be mistaken. A flash of lightning illuminated the object and discovered its shape plainly to me. A gigantic stature, and the deformity of its aspect more hideous than belongs to humanity. So I'm like, oh, the monster's out there. What the hell's the monster doing 2 years later out at his hometown?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, first, buddy, how'd you get there?
How does he know?
Oh, but we find out how he knows.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But I'm like, bro, what? Like, how? First of all, how'd you know to get, like, how? You know? That's the first question. Second of all, Victor, no hesitation. It's like, oh, the monster killed my brother. One, why?
Also,
like,
no
there's
hesitation,
literally zero
no
proof.
Hesitation to go where,
no hesitation.
No hesitation to go where his brother was brutally murdered.
I know.
He just got home.
Yeah.
He's going through the graduation goggles lap of his hometown, and he's like, why don't I go right to where my brother was brutally murdered?
10 minutes ago, pretty much, you know?
Like 5 days ago.
Yeah. I just think that's crazy. This is what I'm saying. I want to see the psychoanalysis. Like, if something, well, I can't even fathom, but I think if anything that tragic happened to a family member, I would be trying to actively avoid that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that he immediately sees the monster and is like, boom, that's it. He's guilty. That's who did it. And I just, like, what gave him that inkling? Because the monster has never once been violent. He wasn't violent towards him up in your apartment or whatever. And then
he saw for 3 seconds, though.
3 seconds. But also, at some point, the monster had to have been around. There were no murders in Ingolstadt or wherever it was he was living. Like, there were no other reported murders that Frankenstein talked about. Or if there were, he just didn't flag them and didn't care, which would track for him.
Yeah.
This is coming from the guy that, like, passed out for a month. So.
Yeah.
I get
Fair.
I don't think he's up to date on Ingolstadt news, you know?
I started kind of feeling guilty, though, calling him a monster, though. So.
The monster?
Yeah, I don't know. Just maybe start like literally we don't know shit about him. What if
He
he's a
doesn't
cool
have
dude?
a name. You'll find out everything about him, and I'm excited to see where everyone's opinions fall because I have crazy opinions about the monster.
Yeah, so in this sentence, I called him the giant because I was like, I
Aww.
just want to change it up a little bit. I'm starting to feel a little guilty.
Do you think he did it?
I don't know.
Wait, that should be a consensus question. Do y'all think the monster killed William?
I don't know why. I feel like time period wise, he probably did just because I feel like Mary Shelley might do that to us. But I don't want him to have, I want it like.
You're rooting for him.
I know. He came to life, not of his own accord, forced into life. And then basically his dad decided to abandon him immediately. Feel bad.
I feel like I root for the monster just because I'm so anti-Victor.
Fair.
Like, I think me rereading this, especially PMSing, I've kind of started the Victor Frankenstein hate club today. Like, I'm anti-Victor.
As you should.
Yeah, he kind of sucks.
And just actually in this passage, because as soon as he's like, oh, the monster killed William, he starts talking about all of his like grief and guilt and everything, and he goes, no one can conceive the anguish I suffered during the remainder of that night. And I'm like,
how about your dead brother?
You're not the victim here. William's dead. Like,
yeah.
I don't get it. And I feel like Victor immediately spins everything to where he's the victim. Hate him.
Yeah, he is the worst.
And then he talks about wait, hold on. Oh, he talks about knowing that he could fess up and say, hey, I saw the monster out there, the monsters who killed William. But then he's like, no one's going to believe me. They're going to just think I'm insane. And I'm like, you kind of are.
You could just say, hey, I saw this giant dude lurking in the shadows.
Yeah,
Crazy.
you don't have to claim it.
Yeah.
You can just say what you saw.
So easy.
But yeah, he goes, I paused to reflect on the story I had to tell. People will just look upon me as the ravings of insanity.
I mean, Victor is clearly not the epitome of a moral compass,
Yeah.
No.
But I also feel like if the monster did kill William, it doesn't mean it was on purpose. Like, I don't know if his like intention was to commit this.
Yeah, I mean, 8-foot monster versus 2-year-old infant. I feel like that could be a little Linny from
just about to say
a Mice
Lenny.
and Men moment.
Yeah.
I have not read Mice and Men.
It was forced reading in high school. But to just give you some context, there are two men in it. And one is like a really big dude who just kills a bunch of things because he's just so big and he's so stupid he doesn't know his own strength. And I think he kills a woman.
Yeah, he definitely has.
He does. Oh, I know how it ends now.
Yes, you're gonna get the whole gist of the story. He definitely has some intellectual disability and like doesn't know his own strength, and it's a major.
Sorry, I called him dumb.
It's a major plot point in the book.
That ending is almost as chaotic as this.
It is.
That's
It is kind of. I feel like Rachel, you're gonna learn this about Becca, but Becca loves. I can't say this. I can't say it yet.
What? Now I'm wondering what I love.
I feel like I want to give a spoiler. But this book has a lot of reflections on humanity. And you tend to like the outward reflections of humanity. Like the books you really love.
I do. The books that I resonate with most are people kind of breaking down very layered levels of imperfect human behaviors and why people behave the way they do without it leaning towards psychoanalysis. I like it to lean more towards poetry and literature. I want you to give me every metaphor, every euphemism you could come up with about why you did the thing you did. Because I'm like, just because I wouldn't do it doesn't mean I don't understand what you're talking about. And this is kind of fun hearing you talk about why you created an evil monster and maybe I'm rooting for you, Yeah,
you're going to love when we get a different perspective here. Because I feel like this part, I almost tuned out because I'm remembering later on when we get to reflect on it.
Yes, yeah. All questions get answered by the end of this book. Another reason I love it so much. Thanks, Mary Shelley.
But also, screw you, Mary Shelley.
Whoa!
She has some dark themes in here, man.
I love it. You should not read Manacled, I guess.
Nope. That's what I'm saying.
No, I think this is a great book. This is a 5-star book, honestly.
This is a 5-star book.
I think it was a 4.5 for me and round up.
A solid 5. Solid 5 for me.
So
I'm anxious to see where you're at with it, Rachel.
Everything's a 5. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm so bad. I literally, like, the only thing that have not been 5s for me is, like, Little Women, you know?
We've talked about this, don't worry. For all those listening, I have read Little Women and I equally hate and love it. That's all you need to know.
I was so indifferent about the whole experience, honestly.
Yeah, Little Women's like a solid 1 in my heart.
Wow. Because of Joe?
No, just the entirety of it. I thought it was so bad. Okay. Yeah.
I stand by that. I think I gave it a 3.
I thought Joe was a lesbian, so...
I wanted Joe to be a lesbian.
So Joe was supposed to be Louisa May Alcott.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was a self-insert, and she died a spinster because she was not into dudes.
Hell yeah.
So there you go. That's my little feedback thing. But her publisher was like, she has to either marry someone or die. And
I've heard the publisher made her.
And she was pissed, so she just like married her off to whoever. So there you go. That's all.
Yeah, fuck the women.
And also, the whoever is definitely just a whoever in that book. He doesn't
even need to be named. I honestly forgot she gets married.
Yeah, because he's an afterthought.
I remember how the book ended, but I forgot there was a man even involved in it.
Honestly, less men and Little Women would be better.
Agreed. Also, less of those women, those particular women, I think.
Yeah. Hated that book.
I loved and hated it because I was so ready for it to be something different.
Yeah. And it was just long. I feel like we should deep dive into Little Women at a later date.
Yeah. When we have more time.
Because I have a lot of shit to talk, and I don't want to waste.
Me too. I have a lot of praise and a lot of shit to talk about it.
I only have shit to talk. Okay, so we find out it's been 2 years since he brought the creation to life. And after he spots it, he sits in the rain on this hill the entire night. Doesn't go back to his
drama. Victor making things all about himself. Okay, continue.
Literally. And then as soon as the rain clears, he sprints to his parents' house. Which, okay, buddy. Like, first of all, why does this town lock up at night? Weird.
Because there's a friggin' monster on the loose.
And also, why were they walking outside of town with their 2-year-old? Like, is there no... I need a map. This book does not have a map, and I feel like I need one.
Are these, like, real cities? That's the other
thing.
Geneva?
Yeah.
Well, no, I know Geneva is. It's, like, all, like, are they all real cities?
See, you have to that confidence with Ingolstadt, Becca.
Yeah, let's look up Ingolstadt really quick.
Because the other thing is, like, I know a lot... In this period of time, I think this is, like, the first time that science fiction actually happened. And people were not really prepared for that. So I don't know.
It is. It's in Sweden. Ingolstadt is in Sweden.
Okay.
Let's look up Ingolstadt to Geneva.
Yeah, how long is that trip by carriage?
Wait, it's in Germany.
Oh, that's an 18-hour drive.
Wait, is it, did you say Sweden?
So if you were to walk it. Yeah, Ingolstadt, Sweden. Geneva, Switzerland. Wait. It's a 308-hour walk.
When I look up Ingolstadt, it says Germany, dude.
Oh, mine says Sweden. Well, we'll ask Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
At the seance at the end of this podcast.
Yeah. We get the Ouija board out.
But yeah, I have a note when he goes back to his parents' house. He walks in and he says, there's a picture of his mother which stood over the mantelpiece as a historical object painted at my father's desire and represented his mom in agony of despair, kneeling by the coffin of her dead father. And I was like, yeah, aka his friend? He is a painting in his house of his wife kneeling over his dead friend's coffin.
My note on that says, I would be pissed if I had to look at that every day as the mom.
That's crazy.
Do you imagine?
To rub salt in the wound, they put William's picture right under it.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I don't remember these paintings at all. I read your notes on it, Rachel, and I was like, I don't remember reading that part at all.
It's one line. It's actually not important. I just thought
I probably was like, whatever.
So my question is that painting just in their attic? And they wait for that member of the family to die and then they bust out their portrait?
I don't
Or
know.
was the mom looking at this portrait of her crying over her dead dad every single day?
Her dad who sold her into human trafficking.
Yeah.
Oh, Elizabeth. Wait, it said it depicted Caroline.
Yeah, that was not Elizabeth.
That's right.
Yeah.
Got them all mixed up. It's just
Fine.
another woman who was sold in.
Literally.
They all were. Every woman in the story
it
was
still
sold.
is true.
Yeah.
Caroline, Elizabeth, and poor Justine. You don't even have to correct me.
They all should have
Caroline.
the poor in front of her.
Yeah.
Poor Elizabeth.
Yeah, Caroline's literally got married the second she turned 18. Like, the dad was waiting for her to be legally.
Yeah, they literally, after a while, okay, so I don't want to skip ahead, but after a while, they're like, Victor, why are you so upset? You seem awfully upset. Like, we're kind of okay now. And he's still very upset about it. Which
also, they're kind of okay when their child brother was strangled for no reason.
Literally.
And then while in their care.
Again, I don't want to jump.
We can't. Okay, we have to pause on that conversation because we have to talk about that when that comes up because I have a lot to say about it.
Yes, yeah. Me too. Which we're like almost there.
Yeah. So, this is really funny for the fact that I didn't like write anything about fucking Justine, but my note says that girl that Elizabeth wrote about has been accused of.
That girl.
She like took care of their dying mom. Like she took care of Caroline on her deathbed. Like just poor Justine was a trooper.
So and then also
and Rachel calls her that.
Can we talk about that? You could call any woman in this book that girl and like give vague details, and they all could pass for that.
They're all the same.
Yeah,
they're all identical.
Okay, good.
The thing that kills me is that Justine was ill that day, and like. They're like, oh, she must be the murderer. Like, it's very Salem witch trials.
Very much so.
You know?
Well, it's because when he gets home, they're like all upset and everything, and Victor's upset, and I think somebody named Ernest
was
like,
the other brother.
That's the other brother.
Oh, it's the other brother. I don't feel like is important. I don't know. I don't remember him whatsoever. But the other brother is like, Justine has been arrested. Justine is being accused of the crime. And everyone's like, no, like, we know Justine didn't do it. Like, that's poor Justine. Like, no way poor Justine's capable of this.
She's that girl.
And everyone's upset.
She's that girl.
And it's because while she was sick, some servant was taking care of her and found the locket in Justine's pocket. And that's why she was
There's a locket in her pocket.
There's a locket in her pocket. And then somebody's like, God forbid that she suffer if she's guilty. Like she's getting tried today. That's also crazy. They arrested her and tried her like same day.
And
literally zero evidence.
Zero evidence besides the little miniature, besides the locket. That she was missing that night because I think in the next chapter Justine kind of gives her alibi.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is all we're going to talk about today, and we have a lot to talk about in 2 weeks. When we catch you all here. Same time, same place. Bye, everybody.
Bye.